Hey there, Squirrel Army! How's it going? For today, we are doing another one of the sub-commanders from the new March of the Machines commander decks. This is for Saint Traft and Rem Carlos. You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing. Alright, so when it becomes tapped, we create a 1-1 for the first time. If it's the second time, we create another 1-1, except it's a blue 1-1 spirit creature with flying. And if it's the third time, we create a 4/4 angel that has flying. And whenever we cast a spell that has Convoke, we can untap Saint Traft and Rem Carlos. So we do want to play a fair bit of Convoke in this deck as well to untap Saint Traft and Rem Carlos, but we also want to find other ways to untap Saint Traft and Rem Carlos here so that we can keep getting more and more tokens out of him. We might want to find ways to flicker him. There's a couple good ways in blue and white, so that could be quite good, though they're mostly at the end step and whatnot, so we'll have to be able to activate him on the end step and whatnot, so we'll probably have to run a fair few instants for that to actually work, unless we're going to do it during our opponent's turns and whatnot. Also, another thing that's pretty useful with this commander is vehicles and things like that, because once we've crewed a vehicle and we untap Saint Traft and Rem Carlos, we'll get the, we've got the ability first anyway, but then we can get the ability to get the next thing and the next thing and keep crewing our vehicles. And that can work at instant speed as well. So that's pretty useful. And we can use some of these tokens, the more fodder tokens, I guess, which is the red 1-1s. But still, we could still use those blue 1-1s as well as fodder tokens because they're not the most amazing to just chump block or whatever, or chump into vehicles or whatever else we need to. The 4/4 is obviously the best one of these lot. We obviously do want Divine Visitation in this deck as well, just to get that. Well, we're always making 4/4s, which are just like prime time, the best thing that we can probably make. It is a token deck for the most part, but it's still a very interesting way to go about it. There's a lot of tap and untap shenanigans that are going to be going along here. So I think that this is a really cool commander, and I almost want to build it for myself, but I think it's going to be too many shenanigans that is too hard to kind of keep up with. But I'll definitely put it together here on the channel for you guys, as you guys voted for it. You wanted to see this one the next most after the last one, so I'll get together and put a list up for you guys so you can check it on out. Alrighty guys, so here we are back to getting to the list, and just over $400 there, so you know, not the most budget list again, but I did put some stuff into the lands, so it is a little bit higher. Again, it's not the best mana base in the world, but it's there and it will be functional. So yeah, that's pretty good because yeah, I did look through it, tried to figure it out as best as I can, but still, it is tough sometimes. But anyway, interesting list. So yeah, and as I always say now, if you guys aren't super interested in me explaining the deck, you just want to see these kinds of breakdowns of like a general view of the deck list and whatnot, and you just want to sort of check out the deck list for yourself, figure it out for yourself. You don't want to hear all the explanations of what the cards kind of do, because some of it's very obvious, and it's easier sometimes just to pick up cards and play them and do whatever you're going to do with them for the most part, rather than, you know, trying to be explained it all to. Check out the deck list in the comments below, because I know you guys aren't that interested, so you can just do yourself a favor and go down there and check out the deck list in the comments and see what the deck list is all about. Proxy it, do whatever you want to do with it. You can play with it and whatnot. So then you'll have a better idea, I think, of the deck. But for those people who are here to check out the list, I will go through it as fast as what we can. We don't have a whole lot of time to waste. So, yeah, I'm not going to talk about lands because, yeah, there's not much really there to talk about. Some nice duels and some basics. Like I said, I distributed it as best as I can. Not going to talk about the instance because, again, it's just a bunch of good removal. And we've got one okay board wipe, Hour of Reckoning. It has Convoke, so that's okay. It can kill some of our stuff, but the fact that it has Convoke is something that we do want, so I decided that that's just fine. I'm surprised we actually have less artifacts than we have enchantments in this deck, but it is what it is. But I won't talk about the mana rocks for the most part in this deck because most of them aren't worth the time to talk about, so just move on. Biden is just really good card draw. It can make someone attack, but yeah, that doesn't come up a whole lot, but whatever, it's fine. Actually, Felwar Racer, I will talk about this. It is technically just a mana rock or a mana dork, but it is good with our commander. Being able to tap our commander to crew 1, pretty good. The Fountain, it is here mostly to make those tokens, though. Again, we can untap creatures and draw cards. I hate the fact that it can win us the game, honestly, because it becomes such a big target. So I really want to get that value out of it, and people are always like, oh, well, you're just going to win with it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but it actually does take quite a bit to actually win with it. So you need 5 white to try to win with it. So I don't think that that's that bad. But again, people always get that threat in their mind of, oh, they're going to win with it. Oh, what? You know, and you do have to be aware of people trying to win with things like this because that they often include cards like this because they can say, oh, you win the game, you know. But whatever. Skull Clamp. We're making a bunch of 1/1s in this deck, so I feel like we can get away with, you know, sacking some of them to draw cards, so I think that's probably fine. 1,000-Year Elixir. It's good to untap our commander, plus it gives anything that activated abilities haste. I don't think we've got that many things, but we might have a couple, so that's fine. Alright, Enchant Moons. Anointed Procession, because we're making tokens, so we just want to make more tokens, so that's good. City of Fire, it has Convoke, so we care about that. We can do triple damage, so triple damage is kind of nice. Coastal Piracy is probably the worst card draw effects we have in the deck, but it's still alright. Drawing cards when we hit people, pretty good. Divine Visitation, like I said, we need to change what we're doing. We can't just make piddly 1/1s and expect to win the game. We need big evasive things or whatnot to really win the game, or that all combos or whatever, ping damage and whatnot. Freed from the Real, we want to put this on our commander to untap our commander. Pretty useful. Impact Tremors just deals damage to each of our opponents whenever a creature enters our field. Again, we're making a bunch of tokens, so we might as well try to weaponize what we're doing for the most part. We could run more of this sort of effect, but I kind of ran out of room, honestly. Intruder Alarm. Yeah, whenever a creature ETBs under our control, we can untap all of our creatures. It does work for our opponents as well, but like, unless they're doing the same tap-untap shenanigans that we're doing, they're not going to get as much value out of it. Yes, they might have pseudo-vigilance or some other things or whatnot happen, but for the most part, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal because we really need things like this, so even if it helps our opponents. The Ascendancy, I don't know about the first mode, but it's alright. Like, prowess essentially to all of our stuff, that's okay. Whenever we cast a non-creature, we can also draw a card, and if we do, discard a card. those are all good things that we want. So I think like the overall effects of it are pretty good. So Penman's Aura, it's much like Freed from the Real, just here to untap our commander mostly. So the partnership, I like that it makes some tokens, but it's mostly here for us to tap our creatures to make mana and make treasures. So I think that's its main purpose here. Reconnaissance mission, again, more we hit people, we draw cards. Also can cycle away for 2, so that's alright. Kaldheim, or Coralhelm, rather. We want it for the untapping stuff. We can use it for the scrying as well, but we really want it for untapping. We can also tap our opponent's stuff or whatever, so can be useful in certain circumstances. Rhystic Stud is just really good card draw, slows our opponents down, so it's useful. I think the Wizard, or the Sorcerer class rather, is pretty good. The first mode's not that interesting. The second mode's pretty darn good, being able to have our creatures tap for mana, for instance, sorceries. Yeah, we don't have a lot of instant sorceries, but still, that's okay. And the last mode, I don't know, it's there, I guess. It can do something sometimes. If you get a lot of mana from your creatures, you can get to that mode pretty easily, and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. It can do stuff, but we don't have really enough spells to really care for it. Whirlwind, just cast null creatures, we draw cards. We do have a lot of null creatures in the deck. We do have a lot of creatures in the deck as well, but still, we want any card draw that we can really get that's pretty decent. Angel of Salvation is probably one of the worst creatures that's in here, but it has flying and convoke, and flash, so that's alright. It prevents 5 damage, essentially, or gains us 5 life in a sense. So it's okay, but it was the better of many other options that just had flying and just didn't do anything. So if there's any more convoke stuff that comes out one day, you think about putting that out first, I think. The Alchemist, I like it again because it untaps the target creature or artifact, so we want that for our commander. Burgundy, pretty good, especially with the fact that it has Convoke, so drawing those cards if we created a token is pretty easy. The Engineer, yeah, we have a few artifacts in the deck, so it can help us convoke out our artifacts. That's useful. This one's quite interesting, the Cricklebur. You can tap 2 untapped red creatures to deal 3 damage. Whatever. Or you can untap 2 blue creatures you control to return a creature to its owner's hand. So we can obviously return our own stuff if we really want to, but we're obviously just going to bounce our opponent's things for the most part. It does need to be tapped, so it is a bit more that you have to go through. You have to tap things first, or tap it with something else to deal damage, etc., or tap it in another way to pay for the untap thing. But it is well worth it, I think, because we need to untap our commander and that. So, Dumbweller, we untap all our creatures during each player's untap step. It's pretty alright. The Meadow Sage, whenever it becomes tapped, we can draw a card, which is pretty good. The Phantom, Flying Vigilance is pretty good, plus Convoke again, and giving anything that we cast next Convoke's pretty good, because we don't have mono Convoke. There's only like 52 Convoke spells in our colours, which sounds like a lot, but a lot of them aren't that really amazing. But yeah, this one's still pretty good to give Convoke to things. The Mascot, again, Ward 3 is not too bad. It has Convoke, which is nice. We want that for our commander. Enters the battlefield, we can look at the top 4 cards of our library, put one of them into our hand, the rest on the bottom of our library. So a little bit of that card advantage and card selection is nice. The Sculptor, it makes some tokens when it enters, and that's okay. When we cast a spell that has Convoke, it deals a damage to each opponent in each battle they control. Like, I see some people playing battles. I don't know how popular they're going to be, but just dealing a damage to each opponent's enough anyway, I think. So yeah, that's fine. The Broken Halo here. Flying and Vigilance and Haste are all good. Whenever you cast another spell that has Convoke, scry 2 and draw a card. Those are all good things. So plus it has Convoke, so it's useful. The Guide, just here to untap our stuff again, so really useful in doing that. The Errant of Eros with Convoke, it only looks at the top 6 cards of your library and you reveal 2 creature cards with value X or less, where X is the number of creatures that convoked it. It's fine, but again, it's a one-off-ish effect. But again, we want it because it has Convoke. Kaikar, making the spirits whenever we cast a non-creature, and we can sacrifice our spirits for mana, so it's okay. Mentor of the Meeks here for card draw. The Vanisher, mostly I think we want to flicker our own stuff with this when it becomes tapped and whatnot. But we can obviously flicker our opponent's stuff, but I think it's better to flicker our own stuff to keep getting triggers off of our own stuff. But yeah, it only flickers things, so not that amazing to do to our opponents. Monastery Mentor, when we cast a non-creature, we make a 1/1. And our stuff has that has prowess, and it has prowess. So it's okay to make tokens. We really want to do that. We have a few non-creature spells, so we really need bodies on the field. Mondak, double our tokens, really good. Plus, just give it indestructible pretty easily. The Referee Squad, Convoke again, and then it can clone something of our opponents and stun it essentially for a turn. So that's okay. We really want it for our commander's effect. The Schoolmaster, tap, make a 1/1. That's pretty alright. Locust God, when we draw a card, we make a 1/1 that has Flying and Haste. We can also pay its ability to draw a card, discard a card, and if it dies, it doesn't die. It goes to our hand at the beginning of the end step, so that's alright. The Iconist, when we cast a non-creature, we make a 1/1. So again, we're doing a lot of this generating token stuff so that we can get more value. The Architect, Grand Merchant here. Our commander's blue, so when we tap our commander, we'll draw a card, so that's pretty useful. Like buffing artifacts, that doesn't happen very much, and we can make something a blue artifact creature in addition to its other types, but that's not that relevant. But again, we could do it here and there. But yeah, mostly it's here for that card draw. Loxodon has Convoke, puts counters on everything that convoked it. That's okay. Timbler of Sands, we untap stuff, so that's what we want. Welcoming Vampire, I don't love these ones that say once per turn, but I guess we have to love it and leave it to a degree. So that's okay. But it is a flyer, I guess, as well, so I don't know. White Plume, we take the initiative. Initiative's pretty good for us, and in general, it's pretty good. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, we untap a creature we control. If we've completed a dungeon, instead, we untap all creatures. So even on its base, we want to at least untap our commander. And if we complete the dungeon eventually, we'll be able to untap all of our stuff. So that's okay too. The Wildfire Adventure Awakener has Convoke, which is nice. Enters with X 1/1 elemental creatures, and whenever they become tapped, they deal damage to target player, which, when we have a lot of bodies on the field, we can make a lot of these little dudes, and they can immediately tap for Convoke, because Convoke doesn't need you to have haste, and there are a few other abilities that actually tap our stuff, so it's alright. The Singer, Flying Vigilance, when it enters the battlefield, it puts a flying counter on each creature that convoked it. Again, we need to get our creatures to be evasive so that we can punch in there and kill our opponents in some way. So giving a bunch of things flying is pretty good. And that is the list here for today. As always, you guys can let me know what you think. I think it was a pretty okay list. It's not the best list in the world. It could be better, obviously, but it's not the worst list in the world. And I still think that you could, pull this out easily and shuffle up and play and get some decent games with it. I'm actually thinking about the new Gorogoro and Satoru commander. A few people actually voted for it on the poll that's on the channel. So I might do that and I might build it for myself. So I'm having a look at it. I certainly have already kind of started proxying it and started fiddling with it. So yeah, that might come out in a couple of weeks, but I think I'm pretty much done and tapped out on this set after that. And there are a few more sets coming out, but you guys can always let me know as well if you're interested in seeing any other of the Commander decks here on the channel. I want to do some old ones as well for you guys if you guys are interested. I might even make another video just to say what people are interested in or make some more polls or whatever. But anyway, that will be on the channel at some point. But anyway, guys, hope you have enjoyed this one and hope you will join me again in the next one.